You're watching The Ready Writer, a show where I get to speak to writers of all different genres, mediums, and experiences. The Ready Writer. Are you ready? Welcome to another episode of The Ready Writer. I am your host, Casey Bell, and today's guest we have Jacqine. Let's get this show started. All right, so my first question for you today is, when did you discover your music talent?
Yeah, so I was 9 years old and my parents bought me an organ, and I don't believe it was 88 keys, but I started to filter out sounds, different sounds with the organ, and so it came to mind that I could play different melodies and harmonies and really create chord progressions. And it was early on, it became more complex as I went on. I later moved on to piano, but my dad discovered also that I could sing. And so besides being able to play the organ, he noticed that I could sing and had me sing to records, and he discovered that, and then I had vocal lessons later. So my music abilities started, around the age of 9, and then with vocals, it was around like 10, 11 years old, something like that.
So I believe you ventured into the independent world of music as far as recording. First, how did you find that world, and what I would say inspired you to do it? Because so many people fear doing music. The stigma of it's not a real job and things like that nature, or the stigma of fear of failing. So what would you say was your courage to do it in spite of what people might have said?
Yeah, and my advice is to combine it with merchandise. Do something that you feel that you're bringing value, whether you're branding something, for, an organization that may need your services, that sort of thing. Combine it with music and do it that way. It's too hard out there with streams alone. If you're touring, that's one thing. It's great to tour. Sometimes it's very competitive, and so the venues are not, as much sometimes as an artist would expect. So touring can be great and lucrative, but if someone wants to do something else besides touring, I mean, there's teaching, there's recording, but again, those are competitive. You can find your way through that, but I would say if you can find something to merchandise with and combine that with your music, whether it's woodworking or sculpting, I think that's the way to go.
How did you get into independent music, and what would you say, was there anything in particular that gave you the courage to do it?
Yeah, well, from an earlier age, I was auditioning, for different opportunities, and then a producer had discovered me and got me onto a record label, which is great. So from the record label, from there, it just really started to be like the domino effect, where I got other opportunities. Another label was interested in me, signed with another label, had production deals, and then a label deal. And then from there, they had licensed music of mine to the Cannes Film Festival in 13 countries. They distributed music around the world, and it was really great that way. And then I became independent later, where I could, have control over my music and decide my artistic direction or musical direction. And I'm a producer as well. I'm a singer-songwriter, arranger, producer. So I play keyboards, but I also write patterns for many instruments, so I can do less than 25 instruments or more than 25 instruments. I do film scores. I can write patterns, make sure that the instruments work together and sync up with each other, and writing smooth jazz, funk, R&B, pop, dance, even world music, so French, Italian, Greek, and Spanish music as well.
So experience basically is our best source of education. What would you say are some lessons you learned about the music business that you didn't know prior to starting?
Yeah, I say definitely try to make something happen for yourself, because people become interested later when you have things going on. It's like, you're on the radio, you're on TV, you're in a magazine. all of a sudden people flock to that. When there's not so much going on, people could offer you a deal if they do, maybe of less money, and maybe you get more money if you have a following going on, and you have people interested in you, and you're doing all these things. And I'd say taking action to get yourself started with music and the things that you do, really honing in your craft, but putting it out there, and letting people see what you do and what you do best. And then I think there's follow-up. You have to follow up and see what opportunities you can get. But I mean, just the action of doing it is a great way to do it.
So when did you get into, now we're going to shift into, because you wrote a book, you produced a cookbook.
Yes.
When did you first get inspired by cooking and the culinary arts? When did you first realize you enjoyed putting ingredients together and making a meal?
Yeah, so when I was 15 years old, I started cooking different dishes at home, and over the years, I perfected my spices and combinations and then sauces, and got to cook various types of foods. I took cooking classes as well. So I make Italian, Greek, Spanish, Thai, Mexican, Indian food, Cajun, French, Moroccan food. I have frozen drinks in my ebook. It's only available as an ebook, not a print book. But yeah, I cook all these foods, soups and salads, as well as some desserts too. So it's really a wide variety in the ebook. But yeah, I got interested at 15 years old, and later on I got my food handler certificate from the National Restaurant Association. So yeah, I've been cooking a long time, really perfecting my abilities, and I cook fusion food as well, and even more foods than I mentioned.
So your book combines music, culinary, and comedy.
It does, yes.
What was the inspiration between bringing those three arts together?
Very good question. So I took acting classes in school, and later on, as experience happened over time, I realized that I could write comedy and tell stories, and people thought I was funny when I told some stories. So the inspiration came to me to write stories and to put them in my e-cookbook like vignettes. So I created characters. It took me like 4 years to put together this whole thing, but I created characters, different characters where there's dialogues going on between the characters. And so, yeah, they're like different short plays. One is a computer story, one's a printer story, one's a photography story. There's all like there's different stories. And so I decided to put that in my ebook. And then the music I decided to write around the ebook. So I wrote specific music for the ebook. And there's even some recipes that people can follow along. It's like a dinner show, so people in the kitchen can hear the music, they can hear comedy, sound effects, they can hear my voiceovers. I do voiceovers as well. So there's different types of music, and there's even world music in there. And there's an equivalent of 2 albums. There's 20 musical compositions. So yeah, that's aligned with the book, the ebook rather. So people in the kitchen can have a fun experience, and they can have friends over. They can cook with, various dinner parties for their friends, dinner shows. And also, it teaches sales do's and don'ts in there, as well as educational as well, because I was a sales rep for a number of years in corporate America. And I taught sales reps how to sell. And so I trained people, and I contributed to $18 million, for example, for one of the companies that I worked for, So I know how to do that, but I have my own strategies in the ebook. But it talks about do's and don'ts in sales, like training, in a comical way. So that's the difference, yeah. It's not boring, it's not this mundane type of thing where, you go through sales training and through half of it you're going to fall asleep, kind of thing, so, yeah.
Are you able to share with us one of the comedic stories in the book?
Oh, off the top of my head, well, I haven't looked at those in a long time, to be honest with you. I'd have to kind of go back to it and, and look again and read it off, and there's a whole story in there. But I might be able to put something together afterwards and then just give a snippet of it, or just a blurb of it or something like that.
Oh, sure. So with your producing and publishing this ebook, what were some of the lessons you learned about publishing that you didn't know about prior to doing it?
Yeah, so looking into traditional publishing versus self-publishing, and I'm self-published, and so yes, it cost me a lot of money to do this ebook. It was less than $10,000, but yeah, it cost me a lot of money to do it. And then, of course, there's a traditional route. Some people are looking for publishing deals where they go the route, and hopefully they get an advance, and there's hopefully royalties that come, from that. But I didn't go the traditional route. I went the self-published route where I was going to do it myself and, see what happens. And, it's not that I wouldn't consider a traditional publisher in the future or something like that. But right now I decided that self-publishing was the way I was going to go, where I was going to do it. Yeah.
So do you have any advice for any artist out there of any genre, of any medium, who might be scared or fearful or delayed in getting started? What advice or what can you share? What I should say inspired you to move forward in all the art that you're doing, even though you might have had fear? What was some of the techniques you can share to conquer the fear that caused you to publish books and publish music and all that you do? What advice would you give to the artist who's scared at the moment and not moving forward?
Yeah, I would say, definitely have a company if it's in your spare time. If you're working in your spare time, have a company. Just do it. Put out emails there. Find where your music you feel people are gonna love the type of music that you're writing, or the type of skill set that you have. Put it out there, and then I think from putting it out there, sometimes people get results back. I think the efforts really count. When you put in the efforts, sometimes you get things back where it's some opportunities come, and things start to lead into one opportunity to another. And it works really great that way sometimes, where, just doing it is a way to go, whether you're emailing or, trying to put together a show, or, having online shows, it can be great as well. But yeah, I would say just be in the moment, whether you're playing piano in an online forum. It's a great way to just get involved with seeing what opportunities come back.
Last question. I guess you could call it a two-part question, or maybe a three-part question to kind of put everything together, or maybe a four-part question. So we're going to start. Actually, we're going to start with the first question. Starting with your music. If there was ever a musician out there, whether they be dead or alive, that you would like to or have liked to collaborate with in any shape or form, who would this musician be and why?
Wow. Brian Culbertson. I think he's a great musician who's had so many years of experience. I love that he plays more than even the piano. He plays amazing piano. Trombone, I believe he plays, and he's a fantastic musician. I can tell his musicianship. He does funk and smooth jazz, one of my favorite types of music, and his musicianship, his ability to play very complex chords with other instruments. I find it fascinating. It's exciting. Another one would be, Pat Metheny. I think his ability to write unpredictable chords and melodies where they do make sense into the next chord progressions, but he doesn't go the traditional route of the way maybe music is taught a certain way, but he gets it right. It's just that he goes in a different way. So it's kind of fascinating the way he winds up with different guitar progressions that you wouldn't think would work, but when he does it, they all come together and make sense.
So moving on now to the cookbook, is there a culinary artist or a celebrity chef that inspired you that you would like to meet or cook with or collaborate with?
Yes. Amarillo Gus. I love New Orleans and the food, and he's just an amazing chef. I mean, I've seen his television shows and whatnot. There's also Rick Bayless. He makes Mexican food, so I love that food as well. There's a number of chefs I would love to meet and cook with, but yeah, these two come to mind.
All right, now let's go to the comedy. Is there anyone in comedy, whether they be an actor or stand-up comedian or comedic writer, that you inspired your acting, your comedy, that you would like to meet or collaborate with, be in a show, be in a movie with?
I guess the actors from Seinfeld. I guess those would be some people I would love to meet and talk with, and maybe they'll want to collaborate with me. Yeah.
And then lastly, to tie all this in with your book, is there an author out there that inspires you that you would like to meet or collaborate with, or would have had they're not with us no longer?
Wow, I can't think of authors at the moment. I'm sure there are. I just can't think of at the moment authors. But I'd say, there's probably food authors. People who've written books. There's Lydia Bastianash, her name is. She's a great cook. I love to watch her on television, and I think she's written a book. But yeah, I think like food preparation books, food type of cookbooks. It'd be great to meet people in that realm.
That is all the time we have for you today on The Reddit Writer. I want to thank our guest Jacqine for stopping on by and sharing her story with us, and you, the audience. Thank you so much for stopping on by to watch. Have a good one.